Butter chicken, it's having a bit of a resurgence lately, and for good reason. It's delicious. I reckon the butter chicken was my first ever Indian dish I ate, which would have been in a food court in Johnsonville Mall, Wellington, New Zealand, around 1995. Throughout my 20s, I lived in London, and specifically in the last couple of years, I lived in East London in a little suburb called Shadwell, which was right next to Brick Lane. It had a huge Indian community, and as a result, I ate a lot of Indian food. Me and my friends Sammy Sweetheart and Logie Bear used to frequent a lot of those restaurants around Commercial Road and became really fond of northern, especially of northern Indian food. But I don't think I once ordered a butter chicken in those restaurants. I guess it wasn't the cool thing to do. Anyway, let's get cracking. This is what you're gonna need. Don't feel like you have to jot this down, the recipe will be below. So to start with the marinade for the chicken, you're obviously gonna need chicken. I've chosen to use chicken thighs, but chicken breast works also well. We've got turmeric, chili powder, cumin, coriander, and garam masala. A little bit of lemon juice and some salt. Then to make the gravy, we've got spices again, so we're doubling up on spices. Green chili, which is optional if we don't want it too spicy, just leave that one out. Some more chili powder, cumin, coriander, some bay leaf, some cinnamon sticks, some clove, and some green cardamom. We've also got a brown onion, some tin tomato, olive oil, butter, obviously, a little bit of sugar, some water, some cashews, which helps make it lovely and creamy, some thickened cream. For both of these, we'll make one batch of a garlic ginger paste. So we'll just use the microplane to mince up the garlic and ginger. And then you're gonna need just some coriander for garnish, and of course some basmati rice to serve it, or you can also obviously serve it with naan if you wanna make some naan.
So the first step is to make the ginger and garlic paste I was talking about earlier. So grate your thumb-sized piece of ginger and your garlic cloves. With your garlic cloves, I'd take them down kind of as much as you feel comfortable, and then keep the end bits to make the gravy, as you're going to puree that anyway. So grate all your ginger and all your garlic into a bowl and set aside. Now onto the chicken. So like I was saying, I've chosen to use chicken thigh, and I think they produce a much better product. They're kind of juicier and a bit tastier. And you want to cut them into strips. Whether you're using breast or thigh, I think you cut them into strips just like this. So into a bowl, you're going to add all the spices for your marinade, along with the juice of the lemon, and just roll your lemon out first. It helps the juice to come out a lot easier. And then to this, you're going to add your yogurt, and you're going to give this a really good mix around. Now, don't be afraid to kind of really spend some time mixing this around and make sure it's super well incorporated. So cover your bowl and chuck that in the fridge for 3 hours minimum, but I do suggest you try and get this done ahead of time and marinate it overnight. Then realize you've been a peanut and you haven't added the salt, the garlic, and the ginger paste. So pull it back out the fridge, add half of the garlic and ginger paste you just made, another mix around, and back in the fridge. So 3 hours later, or the next day, if you've marinated overnight, it's time to start making your gravy or your sauce. So start by dicing up your one brown onion, and then if you're using the green chili, just slice that down the middle and make sure you take out the pith and the seeds. Now you can leave this part in, but I do find the pith a little bit bitter. So in a heavy base pot on a medium-high heat, add half of your butter and your olive oil. Then you're going to add your hard spices, so your cinnamon, your green cardamom, your bay leaf, and your clove, and you're just going to impart the flavour on the oil before you start cooking anything else. So 3 to 5 minutes later, and you're going to add the rest of your dry spices, your one diced brown onion, and you're going to give it a good season with salt. And at this point, you're just trying to sweat this onion down. You don't want any color on your onion, so keep that moving around the pan and make sure your heat isn't too hot. Temperature control is super important when cooking. After about 5 minutes, you're going to add your rest of your garlic and ginger paste, and you're going to let that cook out for 2 to 3 more minutes. Now that your whole kitchen is smelling amazing, you'll add your sliced green chili and your cashews. Keep that moving around, and it's really important to cook these cashews out rather than just adding them in at the end. It's going to give you a much smoother and creamier sauce. Add in your water just to deglaze the pan a bit, and then in goes your tin tomatoes. Now don't be afraid to use fresh tomatoes in this instead of the tin tomatoes. If you're in the middle of tomato season and you've got half a dozen deliciously ripe tomatoes hanging around, feel free to grate those in instead of using the tin tomatoes. On to cooking our chicken. Now, this is traditionally chicken that's come from the tandoor oven. I don't have a tandoori oven at home. Hopefully one day I'll get one. But I find the best method for this is on a tray under the grill or the broiler, whatever you happen to call it. So lay your chicken out flat and then onto your grill as high as it will go for 10 to 15 minutes or until you start getting some really nice colour on the top of the chicken.
The sauce has been cooking for about 20 minutes now and it's smelling delicious. I have added about another 100 mils of water in there because it's just starting to dry out a bit. But I think the trick is with this sauce, like a lot of red sauces or gravies, is to take your time. If you've got nothing to rush for, don't rush it. Turn it down low, stir it every now and then so it doesn't catch on the bottom.
So I ended up cooking the sauce for the best part of 45 minutes, but feel free to cut that time in half if you need to. So pull out your hard herbs, so your cinnamon, your bay leaf, and your cloves and cardamom if you can find them. I wouldn't stress too much about the last two if you can't find them though. Now the sauce goes into a blender and just use whatever blender you've got at hand. So I've got a Magimix here, but a NutriBullet will work fine, a Vitamix, whatever blender you've got at hand, and just go and get that as smooth and creamy as you can. Don't forget to scrape down the sides at about halfway and keep that blending until nice and smooth. Now we've got our sauce all delicious and smooth and silky, we're going to go back to the pot that we cooked it in and we're going to pass this through a fine sieve. Now don't be tempted to skip this step. It makes the sauce go from a great sauce to an excellent sauce, making it super smooth and silky, and you're going to see in a second here just how much stuff you end up pulling out at the end. So all the stuff that's left behind is removed from your sieve. So this is all the herbs that you missed and the tomato skins. Also don't forget to scrape the under part of your sieve because there's also quite a bit of the sauce hanging out there. Now we're on to almost the final stretch. It's time to check for seasoning. You're going to add your sugar, depending on how sour your tomatoes are, how much sugar you're going to add, your salt, and your chicken. So your chicken should be pretty much cooked through. You're just kind of combining it with the sauce at this point. Stir that through, and now is also the time you're going to add in your thickened cream. So in goes your thickened cream and the rest of your butter, and you're going to stir that around till your sauce is lovely, creamy and hot. On to our final step, the plating up. So I'm simply serving mine with basmati rice tonight, and I think the key is with this curry, like most curries, the sauce is the hero here, not the chicken. So lay that sauce on nice and thick. Some coriander to finish, and there we go.
There it is, buttered chicken. These flavors bring back some serious nostalgia for me. It's so good. It's sweet, tangy, and it's mildly spicy, great aromats. Absolutely fantastic dish. I don't know why we don't make it more. Definitely try and make this one, guys. It's really not that hard. You know the story. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. It helps me out heaps. Subscribe if you're not and chuck that little bell icon on. And I'll see you next week for another one. If you want to order something for me to cook, chuck it on my TikTok. Peace.